We're recording.
Excuse me, Michael.
Yes, Mark.
I was wondering if you could suggest to all participants to be muted at all times except when they're speaking.
Okay, I'll pass that along. All participants, if you're not speaking, please mute. And we will remind you to unmute if need be. But that would be good practice. Thanks, Mark.
Okay, so we're recording and live.
Welcome to the Community Preservation Committee. We are here tonight to review all of the applications submitted this cycle, deliberate them, and decide on which will be recommended for appropriation to the City Council. First off, I'd like to take a roll call, find out and confirm who is present. Mark Rosen.
I am here.
Don Walters.
Here.
Chuck Griffin.
Here.
Tom O'Brien is absent. Joe Morgan.
Here.
Joe Texera.
Here.
Jamie Gagnon.
Present.
Jane Healy.
Here.
Excellent. Okay, welcome to the meeting that I'll now declare open to members and to members of the public who are attending and listening in. The procedure tonight will largely be the deliberations among and discussions among the committee members and the voting. To the extent that there is any non-member in attendance and we come up with a question among the committee members that one of those members of the public or applicants might be able to help us with, we will put that out there and ask them to answer the particular question or provide the needed information. Other than that, to the extent that there is a member of the public who is not an applicant and you feel there is something important you need to say, please raise your electronic hand. We will get to you when we are on that particular, before we finish that particular application or project that we are then discussing. I'd like to thank the committee members for all the work they've put in and will put in tonight, as this is our work end of the year or beginning of the year when we have the applications filed, reviewed, and deliberated. I assure you that the number of meetings you've experienced since January will not repeat itself for the balance of the year. Although I would like you to maintain the standard Thursday evening monthly date, which I believe is, Caitlin, correct me if I'm wrong, is it the third or fourth week of the month that is our usually slotted meeting?
You're correct. That is our usually slotted meeting. And I can confirm that tomorrow after I take a look at a schedule going forward for the rest of the year.
Yeah, and what we do is we hold those dates, and we'd like you to hold those dates open in case things come up and we need to meet. Otherwise, they will be canceled, and you'll receive information either way, whether we're going to have a meeting or it will be canceled on that regular monthly schedule. Okay. Here we go on. You've received in your packets pieces of information and communications on updates and changes to applications and answers to the questions we had given to applicants at the time of their presentations. We can discuss those in connection with project or that application when it comes up. And I would encourage all to weigh in on any thoughts that they have on the application and the additional information, whether or not those thoughts have already been shared by email, since we are now in an open public meeting. That is where the discussion will take place, and those short thoughts need to be repeated here to the extent that you wish to continue to share them. Okay, what I'd like to do is since I think we don't have the economic pressure of more asks than available funds. I'd like to just have a discussion one at a time of the applications to get a sense of where people are, and it might be just as easy, rather than trying to do discuss among us complete dockets where there's a suggestion what one person would do for all applications. If we would go one at a time, we could then vote one at a time. And if we then look back after the end, and we get to the end of the list, we can look back where anybody says that they'd like to change their vote or make a different, bring up a different issue on one that we've already voted on. Then we'll confirm the votes by the whole docket at the end of the evening, where we'll have the final vote, which encompasses all of the decisions, which to fund, how much to fund, what special conditions might be carried with the recommendation. Please keep in mind that what we're doing here tonight, this is for you, for our new members, and for any public listening, is we cannot appropriate money. We can only recommend to City Council which of these projects that we would recommend be funded, and in the amount that we recommend they be funded. Okay. Does anybody have any problem with proceeding in that manner? Because I know that other people have better ideas than me sometimes. Okay, then let's start with the first one on the list here, which is the first-time homebuyers program from the Affordable Housing Trust. Amount requested is $250,000. I'd like to open that up for discussion. Any member of the committee wish to weigh in? I, for one, am happy that the Affordable Housing Trust is as interested, active, and experienced in the programs which they have run, and this new one which they propose. It sounds to me like a good direction to go in, and to look to help people with properties that are otherwise not deed restricted with this disappearing loan. Mark Rosen, you have a comment?
Yeah, I did a little bit of research because I was concerned that this program, while I think it's a great idea, generally speaking, actually doesn't fit the requirements, the valuation criteria, for a couple of reasons. About the fifth bullet under affordable housing says that programs must address the needs of range of qualified household, including very low, and low to moderate income families and individuals. And then in their project summary, they want to disperse money to people who have incomes up to 100% of the area median income. And then the next sentence, the goal of the program is to increase home ownership among low and moderate income households. Well, moderate income households is less than 100% of the area median income. So they're, what's the word I'm looking for? They're saying two different things at the same time that cancel each other out. I can't think of the word I'm looking for, but you can't be 100% of the area median income and be considered what the state says is low to moderate income families. And there's no other criteria that this falls under. So I think it's, like I said, I think it's a great idea, but I don't think we can pass it under the circumstances where it doesn't fit the criteria that we're supposed to vote on.
Jamie Gagnon. I'm sorry, Mark, were you finished?
Yeah.
Okay, Jamie Gagnon. You're muted, Jamie.
I'll hold back on my comments. If we're not going to entertain this based on what Mark just said, then there's no point in having further discussion. So
No,
we talk about what Mark said first.
No, you can make all your comments now. Address Mark's concerns if you wish. If not, we can hear now, or if you'd like to withhold.
Well, so I mean, my concern at the meeting was I asked where else is this program being done, and they said the city of Boston. So it doesn't seem like that's real analogous to Newburyport. And then I asked how they came up with $250,000, and they just, it didn't seem like there was a lot of budgetary work that went into that. It was just a round number, and it is, kind of by far the largest request that we have for kind of a first-time program. And I understand that buying property is expensive, but seems like $250,000 for a program that's not pervasive in our area is kind of a lot for us to encumber. But I'll kind of take direction from the board on this. This is my first vote for funding, and I wanted to hear what people had thought about what Mark had to say too. So thank you.
Jane Healy.
I went down a similar thought process that Mark highlighted and looked into it a bit more because, this would be the first time that I think we recommended funding for those that are at 100% median income. And looking into it, I found that according to the Coalition Technical Assistance, CPA funds can only be expended on housing developments that will serve residents who earn less than 100% of area-wide median income. And so I believe that they are following those guidelines, and it could actually be in the legislation, but I didn't go that far. And so that allayed my concerns on that. That's all.
Anyone else with comments?
Oh, hi, Mike, this is Caitlin. May I chime in for one moment?
Sure.
I would just like to echo what Jane said, that these programs can go up to 100% area median income, and we confirmed this with the coalition several months ago, and also MHP Mass Housing Partnership, and they also agree that this is an allowable use of preservation funds.
Okay. Don Walters.
Yes, thank you. My only question on the application, I agree with the previous two comments. It's really a clarification, because in here they say you must not exceed 100% of the annual median. in the Boston area, as indicated below. It just has the number of household size, et cetera. So my question is someone absolutely sure that we come under the Boston area as compared to some other areas, such as Essex County, Merrimack Valley, et cetera? So that's my one clarification question I have. Thank you.
Hi, again, Caitlin again. Yes, I can confirm that we fall under the Boston area median income. So the numbers in the application are correct.
Thank you.
All right. Mark Rosen.
So I'm confused. If somebody could help me with this, because I'm looking at the criteria. I don't talk to the coalition myself. I'm a member of a committee that's given criteria, and it says it must address the needs of low to moderate income families. And this doesn't do that. So how is it that the coalition, which is not a government entity per se, and why isn't it clear in the affordable housing? Can somebody help me with this? Because
Excuse me, this is Andy.
yeah. Thank you,
If I could
Andy.
just interject, Mark, if you could just be clear for a second, maybe I'm missing it, but just so I could follow and perhaps chime in. Could you clarify where you're seeing this reference specifically?
I have a document that Caitlin sent us with the general evaluation criteria.
Yeah, I think what might need to be pointed out here, and this may have been from an amendment to the CPA, but these guidelines we've been carrying over year after year. Generically here, it might be that the CPA has been adjusted or caught up, where this is actually unfortunately just an old bullet in terms of the detail in it. So maybe that's where the confusion's coming from.
Well,
We can
And
take
I
a
would
look
also
at
say that the coalition, I mean, the legislation defines low and moderate income is up to 100% AMI.
Yeah, I guess my point here is that it may be a scrivener's error. It may actually be because there have been some adjustments over the years, some minor tweaks to it, and it may be
Yeah.
that it came from there. And I just don't want to see us, get sidetracked only because of something that may unfortunately be in the guidelines that we should perhaps take a look at and possibly correct. So
right, but moderate income families are defined as 80%, according to the research I did. So 80% of the income level, median income, excuse me. So
Mark, I think I can shed a little light on the criteria and the use of the criteria. Andy's correct that this was generated pretty long time ago, and it attempted to follow the statute as well as what we were looking at, and it's a criteria that starts with the assumption that we have an eligible project under the statute and its interpretation. And then in looking at the projects, we're giving preference to, in these different areas, it says that they, following the criteria, says proposals which address as many of the following criteria as possible will receive preference for the funding. So in looking down at affordable housing, we can look at the one you're reading, and it indicates that it could get preferential treatment if it addresses the range of qualified households. That is, we wanted to make sure that there was some incentive, especially if you had competition among projects, to pick out the very low as well as the low and moderate. But in all cases, it still had to meet, it couldn't go above the 100% of the median. And I think in general for this type of program, it can certainly help those who otherwise wouldn't be able to buy into this community and who are in the median, at the median, which is certainly not above the median, and maybe if they were above the median, they could afford it.
Okay, but
so-
just bear with me 1 second. The criteria says low to moderate income, which is some percentage of median. It's not 100%. Low to moderate, is a category. It's not low. It's low to moderate. That's below median income by 10 or 20%. I'm not sure the number. Okay, I'm done. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Mark. Any other comments? Don Walters?
Yes, again, I think, I know I agree with the program, but I will say one thing. I do think that the wording may be a bit confused. When I looked at the project summary that was submitted with the application, under the first heading called Current Down Payment Assistance Program, unless we're not funding current down assistance program, because then there's another sub bullet or bullet called First Time Home Buyer Program. I'm assuming they're one and the same, but perhaps not. But it does says the goal. It doesn't say a requirement. It says the goal. Doesn't mean you have to follow goals. Is to increase ownership among low to earning no more than 80% of median income. And then further down where it talks about criteria, as was just mentioned, it says you must not exceed 100% of the HUD annual median household income. So again, I don't think it's a big deal, but I think it could have been a bit more clear. Unless I'm reading it incorrectly, Mike.
No, I think, these are two separate programs, and they're only looking for funding for the first-time home buyers in this application. They're just reciting this, they gave you the history of the down payment assistance program to differentiate it from the first-time home buyers in that it's no more than 80%, and it's also with the deed restricted properties.
Okay, thank you.
yeah.
That makes sense because it does say the first time 100%. It just wasn't clear to me. And
Yeah.
I probably should have read something else. Thank you.
Okay.
I'm good.
Okay, any other comments? Okay, hearing none, then I think what I'd like to do is entertain a motion on this project alone to fund it and in an amount from someone. And if I can get a second, we'll see if there's any more discussion, and then we'll vote on this project. Don, are you still hand up there?
I wasn't sure if I would raise the hand to make the motion. I'm happy to make the motion, Mike.
Okay. So what is your motion?
The motion is to recommend to the city council approval of first-time home buyer program in the amount of $250,000. And any other words you'd like to modify in it?
No.
I second it.
Okay. Moved in second. Is there any further discussion? None? Okay, then I'm going to do a roll call. Mark Rosen,
Yes, aye.
Don Walters,
Yes.
Chuck Griffin,
I just want to be sure of the vote. A yes vote means that we're voting not to approve it.
no, a yes vote would be we're voting to recommend approval and in the full amount, $250,000. That would be a yes vote.
Can I abstain? Because I did not hear the whole presentation by the applicant.
Okay. Joe Morgan,
Yes.
Joe Texera, Joe Texera, Jamie Gagnon,
Yes.
Jane Healy.
Yes.
See if we got Joe back. Joe
We did.
Texera,
It's a yes.
that's a yes. The chair votes yes. Okay. Thank you. Next, we have the Atkinson Common Rock Tower Restoration Project from the City of Newburyport Parks Commission, the amount of $59,950 in the category of historic preservation. Anybody have any comments to make on that project? No hands raised? Okay. Then I will entertain a motion. Chuck Griffin,
I make a motion that we approve it as presented
okay, that would be in the full amount.
in the full amount, yes.
Okay. Any second?
Second.
Okay, Jamie Gagnon, second. Any further discussion? Okay, so vote on the motion to recommend approval in the full amount of $59,950. Mark Rosen,
Aye.
Don Walters,
Yes.
Chuck Griffin,
Yes,
Joe Morgan,
Yes.
Joe Texera,
Yes.
Jamie Gagnon,
Yes.
Jane Healy.
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Thank you. Next, we have the Perkins Art and Research Center. Applicant Historical Society of Old Newbury. Requested amount $210,251. In the category is historic preservation. Any comments? Joe Morgan.
Thank you, Mike. First, my apologies for oversharing in email my confusion, which turned out to be quite broad. Okay. And thank you, Caitlin, for setting me back on the right track. So apparently, this application has been submitted as a preservation of historic documents. And thereby the request was for the compact storage system to accommodate the paintings and other historic resource documents that are currently stacked willy-nilly inside the museum. Nonetheless, I would like to recommend the full amount as previously submitted based on the additional language that we did see on the coalition website regarding the practicality of constructing a space to accommodate archival materials and historic documentation, that there is substantial, I think, logic for completing the full phase work as originally presented by Moon, and preparing the space adequately as for receiving the shelving system. And I think that was designated as phase 1 work. So clearly there's more work to come, but it doesn't seem like the work can take place as proposed. The compact storage work can take place by itself. There needs to be other rehab to the space, as well as I think a little bit to the exterior of the building in order to accommodate this work. So that's my proposal as an alternate to the revised proposal that came back to us in these last 2 weeks. Thank you.
Other comments? Chuck Griffin?
I wish to take the same position Joe Morgan has. By doing this work, the moon ends up over time getting 2.5 more rooms on the 4th floor. And there's much damage being done in the present situation, but over a period of time, not just with this, but other efforts that are going to be needed, we increase in a very real sense the usability of the house.
I'd like to echo Joe that the issue here is preservation of documents and artifacts. Whether document is paper or a painting, that they are not well protected, not well preserved, and not accessible in any easy fashion without manhandling them in their present state. And with this system in place, we are preserving those important historical artifacts and documents that will then live in that system and be protected and accessible in a manner that protects them, and they don't get damaged and manhandled. Any other comments? Jane Healy?
I guess I need clarification. Have they changed their ask? And if they have, I didn't.
I don't
see
think
that.
I don't think it's changed.
Yeah, I thought it was
believe
the
it's-
same
it's-
amount, and they're asking for a system to help.
Yeah,
in the
they're
preservation of
basic-
those artifacts. But they
Basically,
haven't
they're asking.
modified it, have they?
I don't think they've modified the amount. I think they wanted to clarify that they were not asking for our support, monetary support for the other aspects of phase one.
Okay, that was my understanding as well.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Could that be clarified by Moon? Because my understanding is that there was other work scope included besides the compact shelving.
Oh, yes, there are several bullet points that go into it. And their clarification came back, said, no, we're asking for the 210, which is the system. The line item for purchase and installation of the system for storage is 210,000.
But I believe the first ask was for other related space build out work to accommodate that shelving, including some structural reinforcement, I believe some alarm systems or other things in order to kick off a larger project by readying the building.
Yes, I think that did describe, those elements were described in the application. I'm looking at it here, but the amount requested has always been 210,000. So I think they were trying to confirm and clarify their application by saying, yeah, we're going to do all this because we need to. We have other funding sources for that. We would like you to help us with this system. And that's the amount that it's going to cost them to buy it and install it.
I see. Okay. All right. Well, I have misunderstood. So very good. Then the 210 has not changed, and it only corresponds to the compact storage system.
Correct.
Thank you.
Don Walters?
Yes, thank you. My understanding is just what was discussed. There's the letter from the Museum of Newbury dated February 13, 2023. And they specifically state what I think, Mike, you just mentioned. So to me, I think it's pretty clear they're asking for the $210,000 only. My question to Caitlin, are you able to confirm that in accordance with allocation of CPA funds that this qualifies for it? There's no doubt in your mind on this issue, please?
I sent over some technical assistance article today, just because I know that there were some questions that came up about the preservation of historic documents as artifacts. And so I'm confident that this is a way to preserve those artifacts, which is the artwork. And so I sent that over today, and this is somewhat similar, I think, in my mind, to the library archival project you all approved last year with the HVAC system. And so I'm confident that this is similar to that project. And I will note that we do have Bethany Durow present from the Museum of Old Newbury, if you would like to also hear from her.
Thank you, Caitlin. I personally don't need to hear from her. I was just looking for confirmation of your evaluation. So thank you very much.
Okay.
Any other comments? Okay, then I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion if you, Mr. Chairman. I move that the request for $210,000 by Moon for the storage systems that are proposed be approved.
There a
Second,
second?
this is Joe Morgan.
Joe Morgan seconds. Okay, roll call. Mark Rosen,
Aye.
Don Walters,
Yes.
Chuck Griffin,
Aye.
Joe Morgan,
Yes.
Joe Texera,
Yes.
Jamie Gagnon,
Yes.
Jane Healy,
Yes.
chair votes yes. Next is the Newburyport Custom House masonry repair and portico roof. Applicant is Christopher Silva. Amount requested $150,000 in the category of historic preservation. Is there any discussion? Any comments? Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we approve the Custom House request for roof repairs on the building.
And the masonry and roof repairs,
Yes, thank you.
okay, in the full amount?
Yes.
Is there a second? Mark Rosen is seconding,
Yes.
okay. Do a roll call. Mark Rosen,
Aye.
Don Walters,
Yes.
Chuck Griffin,
Yay.
Joe Morgan,
Yes.
Joe Texera,
Yes.
Jamie Gagnon,
Yes.
Jane Healy.
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Next, the downtown lighting project, Department of Public Services. In the amount requested is $69,377. In the category, I believe this incorrectly on our list states historic preservation. I believe the amended amount and the amended category was recreation. Mark Rosen.
I don't think I had my hand up.
Oh, just, okay. My mistake. Any questions, any comments? Don Walters.
Yes, I have a question regarding the wattage of the new fixtures. LEDs are more efficient, independent of the word baffles. I think the real word is shielding for dark sky, but in any event, I suspect that these fixtures are providing more illumination than the current fixtures, because the 65 watt, including the ballast versus 65 watt LED provides more lumens independent of the Kelvin. that is specified, i.e. the color of the light. So I would like to throw it to the board consideration, just to keep this moving along, that a special condition would be approved that's subject to going to the next step or confirming with the city's resiliency coordinator and energy coordinator, Molly Ettenborough, that these lights do meet the goals, or whatever's the right word to say, for reducing energy in Newburyport. Again, I think at the end of the day, the light fixtures will provide more illumination per square foot on the surface than the existing ones. And so if part of this issue is they want more lighting, that's fine. I mean, I should say it's fine, but that's a different issue than saying 65 watts is similar to 65 watts high pressure sodium vapor, because I'm almost positive that's not the case. So that's my clarification or question, Mike.
And Andy Port.
Thank you, Mike. Just to respond to Don, and I apologize if we haven't crossed paths on this particular line of conversation, but we've had some discussions with Molly as part of that, as well as the city electrician. I can't speak to the detail on the power usage, unfortunately. It's not my area of expertise, but I do know that we've been looking at that as one of the criteria for the particular fixture here. And Kim Turner, myself, and Molly and the city electrician have all been part of that discussion, but we can certainly circle back on that. And I also would be happy to send you the cut sheet for the fixture if you're interested.
Yeah, again, thanks. Again, I think my fundamental question, Andy, is there going to be more illumination with the proposed lighting system than the existing one? I guess that's the question.
Yes, I would say there is a little bit more light, I would say, from those fixtures. And you can get a good example of that really looking at the bottom of 2 to 6 Market Street. It's the new fixture that was installed along Merrimack Street there.
Okay, thank you.
Joe Morgan.
I'm sorry, through the chair, if I could, I just wanted to note that Kim Turner is in the audience and may be able to speak to that too if there's any questions. Sorry.
Thank you. Joe?
Yes, thank you. Could you remind me again, or remind the commissioners again, how this is eligible for CPC funding? What pathway and what category is it being presented in? And it seems like it's an infrastructure project. I don't quite understand how it is eligible for funds.
The amended version of the application in the reduced amount did two things. It changed the category from historic to recreation. It needed to do that because it would not have qualified as historic because we were not restoring an historic fixture. We were replacing a fixture. I believe the hook within the recreation category is the reduction in scope to involve only those 3 areas which are considered the linear parks, the in-street and those 2 other areas that they identified in the amended information, such that we are improving the use and safety of an existing park with these additional lamps. And that's separate from any driving consideration that the city might have for uniformity and sustainability issues in the larger program where they're changing all of the fixtures downtown. So I think that's the narrow hook that can be used for bettering the lighting and safety in these existing parks. Andy, do you have another comment?
Thank you, Chair. I just would add to that that there's generally speaking, I think there's a fair amount of latitude on the recreation category. Like you said, it's underneath that category. There's a fair amount of latitude, particularly with some amendments that were made to the CPA over the years, to allow some more latitude for communities in that sort of area. I realize there's been debate perhaps in the past about things like stadiums, but that's a very different category, I think, than the type of improvements here. There's a fair amount of recreational improvements, fixtures and things like that that go with those facilities that can be done underneath that recreation category.
Mhm. Okay, I'm happy to have Kim chime in to clarify anything she thinks needs to be clarified.
I just wanted to simply answer the question about the wattage and the amount of light. So the existing fixtures are rated at 65 watts and these new fixtures are 67. So there is a slight bit of increased illumination or foot candles on the ground. And my only sort of clarifying response with regard to is this throwing off more light and is this is energy efficient, is that yeah, they're up in the housing where the actual LED comes from. They do provide they're calling it a baffle, which just allows there to be more consistent and direct light down towards the ground, which is why there's a slightly more wattage, but over time these LED fixtures will last a lot longer and be more sustainable for the city overall. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. Any other comments? Okay, then I'll entertain a motion. Downtown lighting project. Do I have a motion to approve?
This is Jane. I'll move to recommend funding for the downtown lighting project in the full amount of $69,377,000.
This is Mark Rosen. I second the motion.
Okay. Roll call. Mark Rosen,
Aye.
Don Walters,
Abstain?
Chuck Griffin,
Yes.
Joe Morgan,
Yes.
Joe Texera,
Yes.
Jamie Gagnon,
Yes.
Jane Healy.
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Next, we have the application for, dropped my paper, for the Open Space Reserve Fund from the City of Newburyport and the Open Space Committee, in the amount of $100,000. The category is open space. All right, any discussion? I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a
This is-
motion.
I'll second it.
Joe Texera moves and Chuck Griffin seconds. Any other discussion? Roll call. Mark Rosen,
Yes.
Don Walters,
Yes.
Chuck Griffin,
Yes.
Joe Morgan,
Yes.
Joe Texera,
Yes.
Jamie Gagnon,
Yes.
Jane Healy.
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Next application is for the Colby Farm Open Space Preservation Project from the city and the Open Space Committee. Requested amount is $51,000. Category is open space. Any discussion? I'll
So this was for
entertain a
the
mo-
fence, correct? This is just to dispose of or replace the fence that's on Low Street, correct?
Yes, this is the one on Low Street behind that new cluster development
Right.
at the corner of Low and Colby Farm Lane. Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
This is Mark. I will make a motion to for the Colby Farm Open Space Preservation in the amount of $51,000.
I'll second.
Okay, Joe Texera seconds. Any further discussion? A roll call. Mark Rosen,
Yes.
Don Walters,
Yes.
Chuck Griffin,
Yes.
Joe Morgan,
Yes.
Joe Texera,
Yes.
Jamie Gagnon,
Yes.
Jane Healy.
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Next, number 8 is the tree replacement project from Friends of Newburyport Trees. Requested amount $7,200. The category is open space. Any discussion? Jane Healy?
From what we've learned and researched since this application was made, I don't believe that this project is eligible for CPA funds due to it being street trees, unfortunately.
Yes, the past projects that we have funded in the city involving trees are either for existing heritage trees in parks or in the cemeteries, or under the historical category in terms of restoring the historic landscape on Green Street and High Street. But we have not had a straight street tree replacement application until this one. And the feedback we got from the coalition was that this one was not eligible. And I'm sorry that it's not eligible, but I think that's where we are. Any other comments? Okay. Do I have a motion?
Do we need a motion?
Yeah, I think we, we need to, you can move not to recommend.
I move to not recommend the tree replacement project by the Friends of Newburyport Trees.
Okay,
Mike, with
We have to second the motion. I second the motion.
okay.
Now we
Don, you
Yeah,
have some comment.
I just would like to know whether the, who made the motion and seconded, would they agree to amend to say, just say because it is ineligible for CPC funding? It's a bit different than we just simply rejected it. In other words, on the merits, we really didn't consider it. So just a suggestion to.
I'm okay with that, Don.
Thanks.
Okay. Jamie, you're okay with that amendment?
Yes.
Okay. Any further discussion? Okay, take roll call. And this is to not recommend this project due to its ineligibility. Mark Rosen,
Yes.
Don Walters,
Yes.
Chuck Griffin,
Yes.
Joe Morgan,
Yes.
Joe Texera,
Yes.
Jamie Gagnon,
Yes.
Jane Healy.
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Next project, Moby mats for dune preservation from the Plum Island Taxpayers Association. Requested amount $6,657. Category of recreation.
Mike, I had a question.
Yes, Mark.
They were supposed to get back to us with what was going to happen to the Moby mats that were already there. Did they?
I believe they did. Caitlin, did I thought I saw an email where they indicated that PETA actually owns the mats that are going to be moved from that space and reused elsewhere. and they were going to put them in other access points within Newburyport.
Within Newburyport. That was the
Yes.
question. That was the concern. And there, just the question again, does this come under any of the criteria for recreation? Doesn't seem like it.
Jane Healy?
Again, Mark, I think we're thinking alike, because I was like, does this really fall under it? So I looked up, and yes, it does. That was my conclusion. Absolutely, for sure. It's preserving or rehabilitating access to a recreational facility. And if you go into the database of projects throughout the state, there are dozens and dozens of these along the coastline for Moby mats that have been.
And because of the very limited parking, actually no public parking, does it really serve enough people?
That's another question.
Jamie Gagnon?
Yeah, that was my concern. You know, there's basically we're funding a beach access point for residents of that area. There's no real public access, I guess, unless you ride your bike over there, but you have to park your car somewhere else. So it's just limited, you know, population, I think, is really using that. You know, I don't know if that's a criteria, but I just seems like it's a good idea for dune preservation, but it's only for, like I said, or like Mark said, for a small population, given that there's no real parking there.
Todd Walters?
Yes, I echo the previous two comments with respect to accessibility to the general public. The second comment I had made, and unfortunately I don't have it in front of me, and perhaps Caitlin knows this, but in the letter that we received, or email received, and where it said the Plum Island PETA would relocate them as they see fit or something like. I did not see in that email, or to the best of my recollection, that it said solely in Newburyport. I thought it was blank. So when I read that, I inferred that it could be anywhere under the auspices of PETA, which includes other municipalities. So that would be, if in fact I'm correct, that's the second reason why I have reservations on this application. Thanks.
I can read a note from, so it says, PETA will determine the revised location of the Moby mats that best fit the needs of Plum Island for ease of access to the beach, for handicap, dune preservation, and safety. They do not mention to be in Newburyport, just for the record.
Yeah, I just found that note too, and that's exactly what it says. Joe.
This is Andy. Could I chime in there just for a moment?
Yes, Andy.
Just for your consideration, one of the thoughts that I had looking at this application was just whether or not it would make sense, if approved, if it would make sense to recommend that the city be, and this maybe goes to the question of where they're used, but that the city be the recipient, if you will, of the Moby mats, and then be able to pass on through a partnership agreement, you know, with say PETA, where that goes out there, you know, maybe in part to make sure that the city itself has as much control, you know, over what happens with these resources, you know, moving forward. I think they're obviously a partner with the city and, you know, the communities as far as the protective actions that are taken out there and public access. But I just wonder whether or not that might also address the, you know, potential location of the mats and their use.
Yeah, I think it would that might do something going forward. I think Don's question and Mark's question had to do with the existing mats. They're going to be repurposed and reused elsewhere, and whether or not, you know, if in fact they're PETA assets, you know, how much, you know, what authority might we have to say that you can't use them on Newbury section, you know, of Plum Island.
And if I may, it's Mark.
Yeah, Mark.
I agree with what Andy's saying. If the city had applied for Moby mats for Plum Island, it'd be a whole different story. But unfortunately, we can't change who the requester is at this point, can we?
No, I don't think we can. Joe Texera, have a comment?
Yeah, wouldn't, I guess
being new to this, I would assume that because this is City of Newburyport funding, that these Moby mats would be owned by the City of Newburyport. Am I wrong on that?
I
It's
think
a-
that was the issue I was getting at. Not that I have any
Yeah.
issue with working with partners out there, and we may have a raised hand in the audience, to that point, but it was just the idea that if the funds are being used here for CPA purposes, it obviously has to be within the boundaries of the city, that it would maybe make sense, especially going forward for the city to have the control over that directly. I wasn't necessarily recommending that the committee here would force that change, but rather perhaps recommend, if approved, which I don't object to, that perhaps the city council consider and our office could touch base with the applicant and just have essentially an intermediate agreement between the city and the applicant, so that there's recognition that the city, to Joe's point, is where this is originally housed underneath, what umbrella it falls underneath.
Mhm.
Right, I wouldn't think that the city council would approve sending money, paying for Moby mats that were going to be used in Newbury or wherever. I would expect that they're going to demand that they be used
Okay,
in Newburyport.
thanks, Joe. I see Rosemary is with us. Rosemary, do you have, can you contribute here?
Yes, we definitely are going to be using them in Newburyport, and I think we stated that in the application. And one of the reasons why it's 53rd Street is because it happens to be one of the busiest streets in Newburyport that people are accessing the beach because of the mats, the older mats that we had that did not belong to us. They belonged to PETA. And because the mats did such a great job of preserving the dune, the access road now is longer than the 2 mats that we had were. So now we're asking for 3 mats to accommodate the new building of the dune. And basically we said that we would be taking care of the mats. They did belong to Newburyport, but we would be responsible for them because apparently the city asked that of us. And we said we would be happy to do that because we've been doing that with the other mats. The city is not bothered by it at all. We put them down and take them up. Pretty much. And this is Nancy Barrett. We both did this application.
Also, I have a letter from PETA because Julia had requested it, that in the case that we weren't able to put them down or take them up, PETA would be responsible for them.
So as I understand it, the interested folks that are close by, residents, have taken on the annual take them up, store them, and put them back down. But if they can't, or in the future won't, then PETA would do that, perform that service.
That's correct.
The question I think that has been raised is the ability of the city to have a say in where in the future these mats will be used.
Oh, the ones that they were questioning, the current mats that we have are the ones that belong to PETA, and they will be moved. The new mats that we're hoping to get tonight would remain here on 53rd Street. They would not be moved.
Okay.
Name the streets.
And you know what? I want to just emphasize too, it sounds like it's only one street, but it accommodates many. I mean, hundreds of people use the mats to get to the beach. They come from the basin, they come from far and wide. It's like one of the busiest spots on the beach in the summertime is at the end of 53rd Street because of the accessibility of these mats. They come with strollers, wheelchairs, kids on bikes. I mean, it's just been a godsend for a lot of people to be able to get to the beach. And it's not just 53rd Street. I don't want you to think that that's all we're trying to accommodate. It's people from the basin. It's people from 55th Street is not accessible because of a structure that is not handicapped accessible. So those people come from there also. I mean, it's really way more than I think we gave the impression of, without realizing.
Yeah,
So,
it's not just for the residents of 53rd Street. They probably are the least ones using it. It's all the other communities, especially from the basin side,
yes.
for them
Okay.
to access the main beach.
Thank you. I think we have some more hands up from the committee. Don Walters.
Yes, thank you, Mike. I think Andy's suggestion was a good suggestion with respect to, if in fact this was approved, that the disposition of the mat that we're paying for could not be repurposed or would only be repurposed to another area, subject to the city and Newburyport approval, which I would think we could make that a condition.
Yeah.
Aside from that, the fundamental issue, and I did understand that the use of these would be used not only for streets right around there or the base, whatever, but to me, it's the definition of recreational park of how encompassing does something have to be for the general good. And I struggle at this point to say that this is really for the general, because there is very little accessibility unless one walks far distances, or if there was a bike, there's not even a place to lock your bikes up like a bike stand or something. So independent of the disposition we just discussed, I think I have perhaps a more overriding issue of the applicability or the use of general funds for what I consider a very small percentage of the population. Thanks, Mike.
Hey, Jamie Gagnon.
Respectfully, I disagree with you. We even have people with bikes coming and attaching their bikes to the hurricane.
They don't lock them.
fences.
We live on Plum Island.
Yes, and also too, cars and trucks are coming up to the end of the street and depositing their goods on the Moby mat so that they can get to the beach. So
For the day,
unfortunately,
yes.
yeah,
I wish somebody on the committee was from Plum Island, so you could come down and understand the need and the preservation of the dunes, which we all need to do, as you see what's going on in the riverside here, with houses being destroyed from the water. So I really wish there was someone from Plum Island on the committee.
Well, I think we all spend a fair amount of time on Plum Island. How close is the nearest public parking lot? Is that at the point?
that is the only public
At the
parking lot,
point.
yes.
And there's no parking on 53rd Street for the public, correct?
There's no public parking, no.
The city doesn't.
Okay.
Actually,
you.
we have a neighbor who would like to speak right now, and she's unfortunately not able to unmute. Can you help her with that?
Her name is Corinne.
I can't.
I've just unmuted Corinne. This is
Oh,
Caitlin.
okay, thank
Thanks,
you
Corinne.
so much. Hi, my name is Corinne Flaherty. I live on 53rd Street, and I just wanted to have the opportunity to just provide a little history with regard to beach access in Newburyport on Plum Island and the Moby mats and 53rd Street specifically. In 2016, 2017, the city received a grant just upwards of $130,000 to study their public access ways. And as a result of that grant, they identified 7 public beach access ways in Newburyport, and 53rd Street is one of those 7 public beach access ways. And they put signs up at those 7 sites, and they put Moby mats down and roping and fencing, but they ran out for 53rd Street. And 53rd Street never got their Moby mats. And 50 of those 7 access paths, 1 at the point is completely eroded away now. It's gone. The second up there is only accessible at low tide. The third that's closest to the lot is very severely in danger of being bisected by erosion from the mouth of the river. I wouldn't be surprised if it happens before the spring. And that path will no longer be accessible. That leaves 4 paths left. 2 of them, 61st and 65th, run through an expansive length of dune that does not have a Moby mat, and no one wants to walk through the desert to get to the beach on a hot July day. So people don't really use those access points. Plus, they're not handicapped accessible. 55th Street has a ramp that was built by the city, and it's a big metal ramp that has a staircase that you have to go up to get to the ramp. And the ramp has to be manually lowered and raised every year by the DPW in the spring and the fall. And a lot of times they don't get out here before the beach traffic starts. So that leaves 53rd Street, and 53rd Street is the shortest access point. And people drive up their cars from all over this part of Plum Island and drop off a person and a cart and all their stuff And then that person carts everything over the path through our dune, through the 53rd Street path rather. And it happens all day long because that's the easiest place, the shortest place to get onto the beach. It's also the place that the emergency vehicles come on. If somebody breaks an ankle, if there's an issue, I've seen the animal control come onto the beach on that access point. It's the only one in Newburyport really left that's easily accessible. And the city was supposed to have put these mats down back in, 2018 or so, and they didn't. And Pitta Hall was kind enough to lend us their mats. And the dune has built up as a result. But what's going to happen is when Pitta Hall takes those mats to put them in other parts of the city that or the Plum Island that are having erosion issues worse than ours, our dune is then going to start going down. And if you look at the flood maps, the neighborhoods behind the dune on 53rd and 55th are the lowest lying neighborhoods on Plum Island. The third lowest lying one is now gone. That was Reservation Terrace. So we need these dunes, we need them, because if the water breaches those dunes, we lose our sewer, we lose our water. This isn't just about beach access. This is about protecting these primary dunes that we need in order to have, services out in Plum Island. It's such a bigger issue. And it's something that I understand people on the committee wouldn't understand if you're not here. We're just watching the trucks back up down 53rd Street all summer long. And the idea of losing that Moby mat and not having something to replace it, we'll be right back where we were. And when I moved here in 2011,
Point of order.
Yep, sure.
This is going way beyond the scope of of what we're here to do tonight.
Okay, Mark, we're almost there. Corinne, can you finish up for us?
Sure. I just wanted to emphasize the point that this is one of Newburyport's last remaining public beach access points. And if you take a map from City Hall that shows beach access points on Plum Island, 53rd Street is one of the 7 on that list, and 3 of them are nearly inaccessible or completely inaccessible. So we need the map for all the people that are coming out here that are using, this access point to get out onto the beach.
Thank you, Corinne and Rosemary. Jane, Healy, you have a comment?
Thank you, Corinne, especially that context was extremely helpful. Is there any signage that says that is a public access?
Yeah, there's a sign at the end of our street that says that.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Sure.
Joe Texera. Joe, do you have a comment? Thinking about it.
I gotta get to unmuting myself.
Okay.
Thank you, Corinne. I had forgotten about the designated public access points on the island, and at least in Newburyport. And I honestly don't think it's that relevant that there's the parking lot is as far away as it is, because the folks there are, they're the public too, and they're the a lot of taxpayers too, and it is a heavily used area. I know it's not in our purview with to limit erosion, but it's very important to have the Moby mats, because they really do save these pathways. Thanks.
Thank you.
I think it is our purview to preserve where we can a recreational asset and also provide access to it. And these mats in this location do that. They seem to do it for a significant number of people and a significant number of Newburyport taxpayers that often don't get the full benefit of many other projects that we've funded over the years. Jane, do you have another comment?
Got it now.
No? Okay,
Sorry.
good. Any other questions, comments from the committee? Okay, then I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to fully fund the Moby mat project.
This is Jane, I second.
Any further discussion? Okay, roll call. Mark Rosen,
Absolutely, yes.
Don Walters,
No.
Chuck Griffin,
Yes.
Joe Morgan,
Yes.
Joe Texera,
Yes.
Jamie Gagnon,
Yes.
Jane Healy,
Yes.
chair votes yes. Okay. Next, we have the bike feasibility study brought to us by the City of Newburyport Parks Commission. The amount of $5,750 in the recreation category. Is there any discussion? Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
It's Mark. I so move to approve the bike feasibility study in the amount of $5,750.
Second motion.
This is Chuck Griffin. I second it.
Okay. Any further discussion? Yeah, roll call, Mark Rosen,
Yes.
Don Walters,
Yes.
Chuck Griffin,
Yes.
Joe Morgan,
Yes.
Joe Texera,
Yes.
Jamie Gagnon,
Yes.
Jane Healy,
Yes.
chair votes yes. Next item, Cashman Multi-Sport Courts resurfacing, the report Parks Commission. The amount of $61,271. Category is recreation. Any discussion? I'll entertain a motion.
This is Chuck Griffin. I move that this be approved. The multi-purpose courts at Cashman Park.
I second it.
Is that both in the full amount?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Any further discussion? Roll call. Mark Rosen,
Yes.
Don Walters,
Yes.
Chuck Griffin,
Yes.
Joe Morgan,
Yes.
Joe Texera,
Yes.
Jamie Gagnon, Jane Healy,
Yes.
chair votes yes. Next item, Atkinson Common Tennis Court resurfacing, the report Parks Commission and Department. $49,557. Category is recreation. Any comments? I'll entertain a motion.
This is Chuck Griffin. I vote that we approve the resurfacing of the tennis courts, multi-purpose courts at Atkinson Common.
So those are multi-purpose courts. The tennis,
In the full amount.
Yeah,
Okay.
These are the tennis court resurfacing, Chuck.
Okay, but some of these we're having to put in other markings for pickleball.
no, not in Atkinson Common.
Okay.
Yeah, not in Atkinson. So this would be
I
just the
stand corrected.
resurfacing of the Atkinson tennis courts
I agree with the language for the full
Okay.
amount.
in the full amount. Okay, is there a second?
This is Jane. I'll second.
Okay. Any further discussion? Roll call, Mark Rosen,
Yes.
Don Walters,
Yes.
Chuck Griffin,
Yes.
Joe Morgan,
Yes.
Joe Texera,
Yes.
Jamie Gagnon,
Yes.
Jane Healy,
Yes.
chair votes yes. Next item is Woodman Park Accessibility Project, the report Parks Department, $57,570. Category is recreation. Any general discussion? I'll entertain a motion.
Chuck Griffin again. I move that we approve at the full asking price, the Woodman Park request for accessibility.
And a
It's
second?
Mark, I second it.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Roll call, Mark Rosen,
Yes.
Don Walters,
Yes.
Chuck Griffin,
Yes,
Joe Morgan,
Yes.
Joe Texera,
Yes.
Jamie Gagnon,
Yes.
Jane Healy.
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Don't get excited, we're not done yet. As a technical matter, we need to vote to recommend that the debt service be paid, honored and paid. That's the existing debt service for the stadium bond payment in the amount of $122,880. The Cherry Hill bond payment, $11,540. The Fuller Field bond payment in the amount of $48,750. And I guess we also recommend or vote on recommending that once the Market Landing Park bond and the Bartlett Mall bond get out on the street, that we recommend that debt be serviced up to the amounts that we show on our budget. That's $270,000 as the initial service for the Market Landing Park, $235,000 for Bartlett Mall bond. So let me do this. I'll just move that we recommend that the outstanding bonds and the to be issued bonds for Market Landing and Bartlett Mall be recommended to be paid when due. Is there a second?
I second it.
Okay, any discussion? Roll call, Mark Rosen,
Yes.
Don Walters,
Yes.
Chuck Griffin,
yes,
Joe Morgan,
Yes.
Joe Texera. Joe,
Yes.
Jamie Gagnon,
Oh, abstain.
okay, Jane Healy,
Yes.
chair votes yes. Finally, also within the budget is the administrative costs that we have been maintaining for the last umpteen years at the level of $12,000. And we are having increased in costs both for dues to the coalition and to the rates for our note takers. And I'm sure also for the annual advertisement for our annual public hearing. So the suggestion is to increase that by $2,000 to $14,000. So I move that we recommend administrative fees for FY24 be appropriated at $14,000. Is there a second?
I second it.
Okay. Any discussion? Roll call, Mark Rosen,
Yes.
Don Walters,
Yes.
Chuck Griffin,
yes,
Joe Morgan,
Yes.
Joe Texera,
Yes.
Jamie Gagnon,
Yes.
Jane Healy.
Yes.
Chair votes yes. I believe that since we have gone through each and voted separately on each application, and we have results and recommendations, We need not go back and do another vote on the full docket. Other than the specific conditions that were put on one or two of those applications and recommendations, do we have any additional general conditions you'd like to impose across the board? Okay, I would like to make sure that within our proposed order that we indicate that the life before requesting extension on any project is 24 months rather than 12 months. And I believe that that's what we put in place last year. Caitlin, if you could remind me, do we need to actually vote on that now, or did we do that last year?
You did that last year.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
All righty. And of course, we will still impose the obligation of quarterly reports and updates on the status of these projects. All right, thank you all. We're not done yet. We have requests for extensions that were in the staff report that you saw. These are various outstanding, in other words, unexhausted projects that still have balances outstanding, and some projects that haven't gotten started yet that have all passed and some several times their then duration of 12 months to completion. And they are in this group is I'd like to entertain a request to extend for another 12 months each of these projects. So as a list, and it's in the staff report under grant extension requests, I'd like to move that we recommend to the mayor to agree with the applicants to extend for an additional 12 months each of these applications. Is there a second?
Chuck Griffin, I second.
Okay, any discussion? Jane Healy?
Sorry to make the meeting go a little bit longer, but I've been curious about the historic structure survey update in 2017. I haven't heard anything on that, and I was wondering if that is still indeed a project or not, and if we should extend that.
Andy, are you still with us?
I am. Folks, I am sorry, I have a lot on my plate, and so unfortunately I have not been able to get out an RFP for the consultants to do that particular project. I think I could work with Caitlin. We recently sent out an RFP for a housing plan, so I think we could work out that template. But I have not, just because of the numerous things that are always going on. It's always just been have to be put on the back burner for me. The applicant, I think the original assumption from the Historic Commission was that our office would assist the commission with it. And I don't know that they had closed that loop at the time when they were making that assumption, but we just unfortunately had not gone around to that. So I apologize, at least on my behalf, for not having been able to send that out yet. But we were having a little bit of back and forth with the Historical Commission over which how to prioritize the which properties or which types of structures they'd like to focus on. And we got a little bit bogged down in that discussion. And then I had to sort of put that on the back burner with a bunch of other things. So I have not been able to circle back to get that RFP finalized and out, but we can scramble around to do that.
It's Caitlin. I can also add that we have been making progress on this project as a whole because we applied for matching grant funds from Mass Historic Commission and did get those funds. So we do now have 30,000 in funds for this overall project.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Am I correct that I got a second to that someplace?
I think you did.
I did.
Oh, Chuck did.
Seconded,
Okay,
yes.
thank you. All right, any other discussion? None? Okay, roll call. Mark Rosen,
Yes.
Don Walters,
Yes.
Chuck Griffin,
Yes.
Joe Morgan,
Yes.
Joe Texera,
Yes.
Jamie Gagnon,
Yes.
Jane Healy,
Yes.
chair votes yes. Okay, number 5 on CPA application review process. I'm going to be real quick about what we have in mind here, and ask quickly for some help. This year, and a little bit last year, we've run into issues that when we've already got a full application in hand, we are struggling with researching eligibility issues and getting feedback on technical readings of the statute from the coalition, et cetera. Many communities, Jane did some research and found many communities actually do a two-step process where applicants send with an earlier due date, send in just a general summary of what they're intending to ask for and for the scope of their projects. And a preliminary meeting and vote is made after the committee does any necessary research on eligibility, not any of the merits or anything or the amounts, but just the eligibility on that scope of work. And then have the people that are deemed eligible or voted eligible continue with the full application process. And we don't have the scurry about right after the full applications are received on eligibility questions. So here's my ask. I'd like the planning department and Caitlin as the lead to work with a couple of our committee members to figure out how best to amend our processes and suggested due dates that give everybody enough time for us to do the first meeting on eligibility and then get to the full applications. And then later in the year, we can discuss amending the process with the findings of that subgroup and vote on the best process to go forward. So is there a couple people that could work with the planning office on that? Jane, is that a hand that was up from before? And
No, that's a newly raised one. I'm happy
okay.
to help.
I was gonna count it anyway. Can anybody else help Jane?
Please.
Jane, why don't you pick somebody you'd like to have work with you?
I don't want to show my hand.
Yeah, right.
Selective volunteering. All right, I'll do it. Joe, you gonna help?
I'll help.
Yeah, you don't have anything else to
Yay.
do. Okay, Joe. Thank you. And we'll get a report back and we'll discuss and see how best we can do that. All right. I don't have any other updates. We all saw the earlier emails about reminders of open meeting law issues. We have the approval of the minutes from February 16. I'll move to approve. Is there a second?
I second it.
Okay, quick, we go for another, any discussion? No? Roll call, Mark Rosen,
Yes.
Don Walters,
Yes.
Chuck Griffin,
Yes.
Joe Morgan,
Yes.
Joe Texera,
Yes.
Jamie Gagnon,
Yes.
Jane Healy,
Yes.
chair votes yes. Okay.
Mike?
Yes,
Mike, this is Don. Sorry
Don.
for the interruption to you and to all, but this is going to be my swan song. No later than May of this year, I will no longer be a member of the planning board, and as such, I will no longer be a member of the committee. I just want to let you know that truly has been a great experience working with all of you. I'm not sure it's been reciprocated, But nonetheless, I really did enjoy it, and I think it's a great effort, and I've always recommended to other planning board members that they would be well served to be a member of this committee. So thank you, Mike, and thank you, everyone else.
Thank you, Don.
Thank you, Don, for all your work. And thank all of you. This has been a very smooth getting to this place. What we do next is you don't have to do anything except keep those dates open in case we need to do another meeting in connection with the city council approval process. There will be a draft of the proposed order that the planning office will do the first draft. Jane and I will review it for wordsmithing, and it will be sponsored by one of the city councilors, and you will then see it's moving through the city council process first to one of the committees. They'll have committee meetings where they like to hear from the committee on our processes and what we discussed, and then it goes to the full council. So keep a watch on the city calendar for that. Other than that, is there anybody else that has any other business? No? Well, then I move that the meeting be adjourned. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Good night. Thank you,
Aye.
Mike.
Thank you. Thank you. Good night.
We'll be missed, Don.
Thank you.